The new trailer for Denis Villeneuve's Dune has finally released following a special IMAX event screened on Wednesday. We got stunning looks at new scenes, the huge cast, and elements from the book that fellow fans will be very excited for. The sleeper has finally awakened, and it's time to kick off this revived marketing campaign and get into everything that we saw in the new trailer. I'm going to be breaking down every shot and discussing what it could mean for the science fiction epic that is currently set to release around the globe in September and October. Before I get into it though, if you want to see much more videos on Dune leading up to its release date, including more topical videos on the trailer and the marketing, then don't forget to support this video by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. Also, feel free to check me out on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Instagram at Cortex Videos, which is all linked in the description below. But without further ado, let's dive into the newest trailer for the 2021 adaptation of Dune. So the new trailer echoes themes that many book fans wanted to see approached in this new adaptation. Arrakis is a beautiful world being torn apart by ugliness, but the man destined to save the planet may also be its doom. Dune stars Timothée Chalamet as the turned rebel leader Paul Atreides, and together with his mother Lady Jessica and the Fremen warrior Chani, Paul aims to strike back against the forces that destroyed his home and threaten Arrakis and its people. Of course, there's more to Paul than meets the eye, so let's look at what it all means. We start this trailer with a shot of ornithopters, helicopter-like machines used for travel, flying over the dunes of Arrakis. Many devices and transports in Dune reassemble organic life because the galaxy has shunned artificial intelligence technology. That's why this one looks like a dragonfly, and it's a beautiful shot that shows off Denis Villeneuve's dedication to filming on location in the desert. Zendaya's Chani, or rather Paul's vision of her, is the narrator for a good portion of this trailer. She talks about the beauty of her planet Arrakis and how you can see spice in the air. Even through the romantic haze of Paul's vision, you can hear how much Chani loves her home as the universe fights over it. They're fighting because spice, or melange, is a substance that's necessary for interstellar space travel, and the only place you can find it is on Arrakis. That makes it the most valuable planet in the known universe. In this shot, we see what looks to be a machine mining spice out in the desert, something Chani describes as outsiders ravaging our land in front of our eyes. She ponders the future of her world as larger, more powerful forces seek to control it. The machine is then attacked by multiple firebombs, with it being unclear who's responsible for the attack, as it could be a couple of things. It may be the Harkonnen forces attacking the Fremen out in the deserts in their pursuit of controlling the spice and crushing the resistance. But it could also be part of the Fremen resistance against the Harkonnens after they've invaded. I think it's the latter, as there's possibly a glimpse of the blood tracks that mark Harkonnen soldier uniforms. And it's during this time that Baron Harkonnen's nephew, the Beast Raban, played by Dave Bautista, escalates his rampage during the attack on Arrakis. We see him and his fellow soldiers taking hostages and presumably killing them, and we also get a shot of burning bodies, which indicates that the Harkonnens have no interest in treating the dead with any sort of decency. Alongside these clips of the destruction, there are also a few other inserts of Chani. The Fremen warrior wields a blood-stained Christ knife, which is a Fremen weapon carved from the tooth of a sandworm. Based on her outfit, the overall appearance of the shot, and Paul awakening from a dream, this is likely still in Paul's vision, and it represents how the character will have to embrace his destiny among the Fremen in order to stand a chance against the rising threat. But in reference to the book, it also symbolises how Paul's path will not be a peaceful one. After these introducing scenes in the trailer, we also get into a bit more from the first act of the film. We arrive on Caladan, the Atreides' home planet, and immediately start to get into some of the dynamics between the central characters. A ship glides along the water almost like it's skimming a sand dune, and based on the next shot, we can predict that this is Duncan Idaho, played by Jason Momoa, doing some cool stunts. He and Paul embrace warmly after the former lands, and Paul tells Duncan about his vision of Chani. Paul Atreides and Duncan Idaho have one of the closest friendships in the book, and Paul has long looked up to his kind and charming mentor. We even get a bit of playful comedy between them, with Duncan joking that Paul needs to put on some muscle. But during their conversation about Paul's dreams, Duncan says, "Dreams make good stories, but everything important happens when we're awake." And as this happens, we get a shot of someone travelling through the desert, seemingly moving in a way that's designed to avoid detection by the sandworms. They're also alone, which on Arrakis is a very bad sign, and it comes across as a curious juxtaposition of Paul's dreamy visions of the desert with its much harsher reality. It could be Duncan himself struggling to survive after escaping the Arrakis attack, but it's quite hard to put our finger on who it actually is. But we then get back to more story building on Caladan, and we see a group of people arrive on a huge egg-like ship, most likely being an emissary to the Emperor, the ruler of the known universe, along with members of the Bene Gesserit order. The emissary is holding what appears to be a scroll, which could be the deed to Arrakis. This makes sense since the Emperor was crucial in securing the transfer of the planet from House Harkonnen to House Atreides, Duke Leto, played by Oscar Isaac. It's a bit unclear, but following this you can also see a ship travelling through space using the faster than light method of spacefolding. The Spacing Guild controls all space travel using spacefolder vessels piloted by the Guild navigators. This is accomplished with spice, as the navigators use it to plot a safe course through folded space. Following the scenes on Caladan though, we begin to shift to the desert landscape of Arrakis, and we get some of the heavy symbolism that I mentioned at the beginning of this breakdown. Paul mentions something awakening in his mind, which we saw in the previous trailer, only here it's juxtaposed with explosions, destruction, and a shot of Baron Harkonnen. To me, this represents that he's not only seeing the future attack on Arrakis, but that the very thing awakening inside of him isn't just powerful, but extremely dangerous. And of course, alongside Paul in all of his stages of transitioning is Lady Jessica, and although she doesn't have a big presence in this trailer, if you've read the book, you'll know that she is one of the most important characters in the story. But at least we do get a hint of what's to come. Lady Jessica will become a key figure among the Fremen, taking on a leadership role within their spiritual community, and this shot could be a shot of her preparing to take the next step in joining their ranks. This is likely to happen towards the ending of the first film, and to join this shot is another big moment that involves Paul's fight with Jamis, a Fremen warrior who doesn't approve of Paul and Lady Jessica joining the clan. We see Paul preparing for the fight he doesn't want, but knows that he has to in order to be accepted among them. We follow with a brief shot of Paul arriving on Arrakis, accompanied by the Atreides soldiers, and it's great to see him look over at the Atreides flags as they disembarked. Again, they're being welcomed to their new home, but Paul knows that they're not really welcome. This is what Dune is all about, and what follows only adds to this essence of tension and development that is about to occur. Gurney Halleck, played by Josh Brolin, warns Paul that the Harkonnens, the previous occupiers of Arrakis, are not human and that they're brutal. This is paired with shots of Harkonnen soldiers, who are more than they appear to be, being blessed with blood, marking them as ready for the invasion of Arrakis. There's also a bunch of young people strapped down to tablets, nearly naked and in pain. It's unclear what's actually happening here, but I'm guessing it's part of the Sardaukar training. Sardaukar are members of the Empire's elite fighting force, who by many cannot be matched. The training that occurs is brutal, and most people do not survive the process. This could either be trainees being subject to psychological torture or a gruesome display of those who failed. Or it could be something else entirely for Baron Harkonnen's harsh rule of Arrakis. And soon after, we get the first official shot of Pitta, a mentat, which is basically a human computer trained to make logical, calculated decisions. But Pitta is a twisted mentat, meaning he uses his training as a way to double-cross everyone in pursuit of his own ends. And while this is one example of how amazing the Dune cast is, there is one that I'm even more excited to see. Baron Harkonnen rises up on his suspensors as his creepy double voice tells Pitta, "This is my Dune, kill them all." Baron Harkonnen is a terrifying individual, someone who's doubted by others, but is more in control than anyone gives him credit for. What I love about this shot is how the outfit conceals the suspensors, which are powerful lifters he uses to hold his body aloft. In the books and the original film, they're kind of mocked in relation to his obesity, but here we see the Baron Harkonnen using them to his advantage, hiding them beneath flowing robes to give himself a massive and intimidating presence. I wouldn't be surprised if we got a classic portrayal with this character, as early test screenings have said that Stellan Skarsgård gives an incredible performance as the villain. We then come back to the other side of things and get to see Paul using his Bene Gesserit training, thanks to his mother, Lady Jessica, against a strange threat. I won't spoil what this is, but it is an important scene, and the shot is a fantastic one. But here we also see another important character in Dr. Wellington Yu checking in on Paul after the pre-mentioned threat. He's the Atreides doctor and one of Lady Jessica's confidants, with her trusting him implicitly because he's conditioned to never inflict harm. However, Yu has got some big secrets, as noted by the double meaning when he says Paul sees too much. These are all details that lead up to a crucial moment in the book, and it's something that is better to keep quiet for new viewers. At the same time, I can't wait to see how all of this plays out, and the shots we do get of this sequence have me incredibly intrigued. But then the invasion of Arrakis begins, with everyone appearing to be caught by surprise. There are lots of big, impressive explosions in this trailer, and this one in particular was pretty mind-blowing. You see the ship's shield, which is similar to the shield soldiers wear in battle, exploding in response to the explosion. That's because of how the shields aren't designed to handle certain kinds of attacks, namely guns. The Harkonnens are using the Atreides' own shields against them, and it's great to see this adapted so visually well from the book. But we also proceed into an extended look at the scene we saw in the previous trailer, with Paul and Lady Jessica escaping a pack of pursuing ornithopters, heading towards a massive sandstorm. If anyone can handle it, it's of course Paul Atreides. But while Paul may be the hero of this story, we see in the next shots that the fight for Arrakis was happening long before him, and it's the Fremen who are leading the charge. We see Chani and her fellow Fremen warriors launching an attack against what looks to be the same mining machinery that we saw exploding earlier. This would add to the idea that this whole sequence is part of the rebellion against House Harkonnen. But book readers may be asking, why is this a part of this first film? Well, there's a pretty simple answer, and I'll get into it when we reach one of the concluding shots. But coming to the ending parts of this new trailer, we go back briefly to the final moments spent on Caladan. House Atreides says goodbye to the planet, one which the family has ruled for 26 generations and is the only home they've ever known when Dune opens. Below you can see hundreds of people gathered to see them off, showing the loyalty they have to the long-standing Atreides family. In the book, after House Atreides leaves for Arrakis, the planet is temporarily granted to a character named Count Femring, a mentat and advisor to the Emperor. He's a fascinating character, and while he doesn't look to be in the first movie, I'm guessing he'll play a major part in the second film. But it's following this that Duke Leto Atreides counsels his son on what it means to be a leader, telling him that a great man doesn't seek to lead, he's called to it. It's a touching moment and shows the love Duke Leto has for Paul. The Duke even tells him that the most important thing isn't that Paul could be the next leader, it's that he's his son. This is the kind of emotional pull that needed to be adapted from the pages, and it looks like we are getting a lot of it. And to add to the emotion, another scene looks to take place after Paul was attacked by that strange threat we discussed before, and it includes Duke Leto asking Lady Jessica to protect their son if anything should happen. She vows to do so with her life, and we then see her fulfilling that promise as she beats the Fremen leader Stilgar, played by Javier Bardem, using her Bene Gesserit training. This is a crucial moment in the book and movie, as the Fremen aren't interested in Paul and Lady Jessica at first, until she displays her Weirding Way abilities. Intercut another important moment as we learn that shields can't protect against a backstabbing, and we find ourselves at the epic conclusion. As a sandworm approaches in the distance, Dr. Liet Kynes brandishes what are called maker hooks to engage in a little worm riding. Riding sandworms is a necessary skill amongst the Fremen, and a talent they've kept secret from the outside world. Worm riding is accomplished by first digging hooks into the worm's scales, forcing it to stay above the sand. Then those hooks are placed around the worm's mouth to guide it where the rider wants to go. But the Fremen aren't the only ones who can develop this if you know what happens later down the line. At this point, we then cut to the battle as Paul tells the Fremen that only together do they stand a chance, and we see them doing just that as the Fremen forces launch an attack against the Harkonnen soldiers, with a single fighter brandishing a crysknife to overpower them in hand-to-hand combat. If you look carefully in the wide shot, you'll see how the Fremen are literally coming out of the sand. This is part of their guerrilla fighting tactics, using their knowledge of the environment to gain the upper hand. But who is this incredible fighter? Well, the face shield is lifted to reveal none other than Paul Atreides. His eyes have started to turn blue, and it's a sign that he's becoming part of the Fremen. But as we said before, there's an answer to some of these shots feeling odd regarding the context of what is going on. The potential answer is that this is likely to be a future vision of Paul's, similar to the ones he had of Chani at the beginning of the footage, as it's something that would happen further in the second movie. But what it tells us is that Warner Brothers and Denis Villeneuve are reaching high and really want this film to be the beginning of a story that can span many entries and other properties from it. It's time, Lady Jessica tearfully tells Paul, in that he must be ready for what's next. In the context of the trailer, it seems like it's preparing him for retaliation against House Harkonnen. But this is most likely from early on in the movie, when Lady Jessica wakes Paul so he can undergo the pain box test, which we saw in the previous trailer. We close on a shot of Chani and a fully blue-eyed Paul Atreides standing with the Fremen, ready for what's to come. But that was my breakdown of the new trailer for Denis Villeneuve's Dune. Where the first trailer was light on dialogue and heavy on a sense of atmosphere that evoked the mystery of the grand sci-fi world, yesterday's second trailer really dived into the meat of the classic sci-fi story. Here we're really getting to properly meet characters, and we're also seeing far more action, hinting at the massive clash between the Atreides clan and the Harkonnens to come. This is showing how Warner Brothers is trying to sell Dune to a wider audience that isn't terribly familiar with Frank Herbert's iconic sci-fi setting. Having seen the IMAX footage, you can clearly see how they have used this trailer to approach the general audience, as the IMAX footage feels more like a mythic and sweeping Denis Villeneuve film. But one thing they both hold is a sheer scale that is being sold through the massive story that Dune is. And one thing's for sure, after seeing the IMAX footage yesterday, the sheer scale of the director's latest offering clearly deserves to be seen on the biggest screen possible. I personally think this trailer was the best of the year so far, and while I'm a huge fan of Dune, they had to deliver on so many things when marketing the film. They had to satisfy fans, but more importantly, they had to get more eyes on the project from the general audience. They did that with this trailer, giving us an edit which has the sweeping cinematography and artism that we know this film will hold, but they also packaged it in a way that non-book readers would become fascinated by. It's a trailer that delivers on the intrigue for the different types of viewer, and it tells us that Denis Villeneuve's film could be an upcoming masterpiece. It's outstanding to see what was once called an unfilmable novel have this excitement, and I can't wait to see how the director and his team pull off the rest of the project. But if you want to know my thoughts on the first 10 minutes of Dune in IMAX, my breakdown is up on the channel now, and I'd highly recommend checking it out. Let me know down below in the comment section what you thought of this new trailer and what else you would like to see for Dune here on the channel. For more videos surrounding Dune leading up to its release this year, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. I will be continuing to cover news and topics for Dune whenever new information comes out, alongside episodes of my Road to Dune series very soon, so look out for all of these uploads. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.